First contact surprise. Senior observer Nexus adjusted his crystalline sensory arrays as he monitored Earth from his cloaked observation post in high orbit. After 3 centuries of watching this developing world, he had grown accustomed to the tedium. His massive data crystals held thousands of reports, all saying essentially the same thing. Humans were clever but primitive, stuck in their chemical rocket age, centuries away from true technological advancement. Today's observation focused on a human naval vessel in the North Pacific. The ship, designated as U.S. Hyperion, had been of particular interest due to unusual energy signatures that his instruments had detected over the past few months. Nexus's crystalline form vibrated with mild amusement as he recorded his latest report. Observation log 47,392. Humans continue their inefficient experimentation with electromagnetic technology. While creative, their approach remains fundamentally limited by their reliance on primitive power generation methods. Probability of achieving meaningful technological breakthrough, less than 0.001%. The door to his observation chamber hummed open, admitting his junior analyst, Vela. Her bioluminescent form cast a soft blue glow across the monitoring stations. Senior observer, I've detected unusual power fluctuations from the target vessel, she reported, her translator converting her thoughts into standardized galactic common. Likely another failed attempt at energy weapons. Nexus responded dismissively. Their understanding of particle physics is far too primitive for. A sudden alarm cut through his statement. Multiple sensors flashed urgent warnings as a massive energy spike emanated from the human vessel. Impossible, Nexus whispered, his crystalline form shifting colors in agitation. These readings suggest they're channeling more power than their entire grid should be capable of producing. Below, aboard the U.S. Hyperion, Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the massive testing array that dominated the forward deck. The ship's experimental weapons system, officially designated as the electromagnetic mass accelerator, had been developed not as a weapon at all, but as a cost-effective way to launch satellites into orbit. The Navy's interest had been almost an afterthought. Power systems nominal, reported Lieutenant Rodriguez from his station. Capacitor banks at full charge. Target drone is in position, added Commander Park. Range, 30 kilometers. Chen took a deep breath. 3 years of research, countless simulations, and billions in development had led to this moment. Initiate firing sequence. In his observation post, Nexus watched in fascination as the human vessel's energy signature continued to build. They're going to overload their systems, he predicted confidently. This is why proper technological progression cannot be rushed. The rest of his statement died in his translator as a brilliant flash erupted from the human ship. His sensors tracked something moving at incredible velocity, a simple projectile, accelerated to a significant fraction of the speed of light. The target drone, specifically designed to test the most advanced armor systems Earth could produce, simply ceased to exist as the hypersonic slug passed through it. The shockwave from its passage created a visible distortion in the atmosphere, spreading out in a perfect cone from the point of impact. Aboard the Hyperion, the bridge crew erupted in cheers. Direct hit, Park announced, though the declaration was hardly necessary. Target completely neutralized, all systems performing within expected parameters. Chen allowed herself a small smile. Send the data to Naval Research. Tell them Project Cloudpiercer is ready for Phase 2. In orbit, Nexus's crystalline form had frozen in shock. His color shifted to the deep purple of profound distress. The humans had just demonstrated technology that, while seemingly primitive, could theoretically penetrate even the most advanced energy shields used by the Galactic Council, not through complex particle physics or exotic matter manipulation, but through sheer kinetic force delivered with incredible precision. Update priority classification of human technological development, he commanded his system, and prepare a priority transmission to the Council. It seems we may have significantly underestimated humanity's potential. Vela's bioluminescence flickered rapidly, her species' equivalent of nervous laughter. Should we include in the report that they achieved this breakthrough while trying to develop a more cost-effective satellite launch system? Nexus's form shifted to a color that had no translation in human visual spectrum, a shade reserved for moments of profound paradigm shifts. Perhaps, he mused, that is precisely what makes humans so dangerous. They don't know what they're not supposed to be able to do. As the Hyperion began its return journey to port, neither its crew nor the alien observers could fully grasp the implications of what had just occurred. Humanity had not only stumbled upon a technology that would revolutionize space travel, they had accidentally invented a weapon that would reshape galactic politics forever. And they had done it not through centuries of careful technological progression, but because they were looking for a cheaper way to put satellites in orbit. In the depths of space, Nexus's priority transmission raced toward the Galactic Council, carrying a message that would send shockwaves through the interstellar community. Humanity had just proven themselves ready for first contact, not because they had followed the expected path of technological development, but because they had ignored it completely and found their own way forward. The Steel Thunder. Dr. Maya Patel stood in the bowels of the U.S. Hyperion, surrounded by the humming mass of capacitors and electromagnetic coils that made up the heart of Project Cloudpiercer. Her creation wasn't supposed to be a weapon. 3 years ago, she'd been a civilian contractor for NASA, trying to solve a simple problem: how to launch satellites without spending a fortune on rocket fuel. Power distribution test complete, announced Chief Engineer Torres from his station. All systems green. Though I still say the power curve looks more like a roller coaster than a launch trajectory. Maya smiled as she checked the readings. That's because you're still thinking in terms of conventional weapons, Jack. This isn't about creating the perfect shot. It's about finding the most efficient way to convert electrical energy into kinetic force. The intercom crackled to life with Captain Chen's voice. Dr. Patel, we're approaching the second test site. How are things looking down there? Ready whenever you are, Captain, Maya responded, her eyes never leaving the diagnostic screens. Though I still wish we were testing this with a payload designed for orbital insertion rather than weapons testing. The whole project had started as a solution to a simple economic problem. Chemical rockets were expensive, inefficient, and environmentally problematic. Maya had proposed a different approach, using electromagnetic acceleration to launch payloads at a fraction of the cost. The Navy's interest had come later, after a junior officer attending a NASA symposium had realized the implications of being able to launch objects at orbital velocities from sea level. Multiple contacts on radar, announced the bridge's tactical officer over the intercom. Looks like our friends from Naval Intelligence brought some observers. Maya knew what that meant. Today's test wasn't just about proving the technology worked. It was about showing it could be replicated reliably. Success would mean full funding for the civilian space launch program. Failure would see Project Cloudpiercer relegated to the Pentagon's archives of interesting but impractical ideas. In orbit, Nexus had been joined by a full observation team from the Galactic Council. Their massive ship, still cloaked from human detection, bristled with sensors focused on the Hyperion. Impossible, declared Science Elder Vix, his crystalline form vibrating with skepticism. Their power generation technology is far too primitive to achieve the velocities you reported. Watch. Nexus replied simply. Below, Maya initiated the charging sequence, the Hyperion's revolutionary power system. Another accident, born of trying to make the project more cost-effective, began channeling energy into the massive capacitor banks. You know what I love about this design? Torres asked as he monitored the power flow. We didn't have to invent any new materials or discover new physics. We just had to figure out how to use what we already had more efficiently. Maya nodded. That had been the key to the whole project. Instead of waiting for some theoretical breakthrough in exotic materials or energy manipulation, they'd focused on maximizing the potential of existing technology. The result was a system that could launch objects into orbit for 1/10 of the cost of conventional rockets. Power levels at maximum, Torres reported. Ready for launch sequence. Captain Chen's voice came over the intercom again. All stations, prepare for test fire. Dr. Patel, you have control of the system. Maya took a deep breath. This test would use a special probe designed to gather data throughout its flight path. If successful, it would prove that Project Cloudpiercer could deliver payloads to precise orbital trajectories. Initiating launch sequence, she announced. Her fingers flew over the controls, making minute adjustments to the power distribution curve. Magnetic coils aligned. Payload is locked. Firing in 3, 2, 1. The Hyperion shuddered as the electromagnetic mass accelerator released its payload. The probe shot forward, riding a magnetic wave that had been precisely calculated to maintain its stability throughout acceleration. Maya watched the telemetry with intense focus as the probe climbed through the atmosphere. In orbit, the alien observers registered readings that defied their understanding of human technological capabilities. The probe wasn't just fast, it was achieving its velocity with an efficiency that their own mass drivers couldn't match. The launch trajectory, Vix noted with growing astonishment. It's not just ballistic. They're using the electromagnetic field to guide the payload through atmospheric interface, a technology they developed, Nexus reminded him, because they were trying to save money on rocket fuel. Aboard the Hyperion, the probe's telemetry continued to stream in. Every reading showed green. The trajectory was perfect, the velocity exact, and the probe itself was maintaining structural integrity exactly as the simulations had predicted. Orbital insertion confirmed, Torres announced, his voice filled with pride. The probe has achieved stable orbit. All systems performed exactly as designed. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. 3 years of work, countless setbacks, and endless skepticism from those who said it couldn't be done, all vindicated in a single moment. They had done it. They had found a way to make space access affordable, and all it had taken was looking at old problems in new ways. Congratulations, Dr. Patel. Captain Chen's voice held genuine warmth. You just changed the future of space travel. Though I suspect the admirals are more interested in other applications of your technology. Maya nodded, knowing that the military implications of her work couldn't be ignored. But she also knew that this was just the beginning. Project Cloudpiercer had proven that humanity didn't need to wait for theoretical breakthroughs or exotic materials. They just needed to be clever with what they already had. In orbit, the alien observers began composing their reports to the Galactic Council. None of them quite knew how to explain that humans had not only matched, but in some ways exceeded their own mass driver technology, not through centuries of careful advancement, but because they were looking for a bargain. Galactic ripples. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council had never been so chaotic. Representatives from 1,000 worlds crowded the massive amphitheater, their varied forms creating a living tapestry of crystalline structures, energy beings, and organic entities. The central holodisplay showed the test footage from Earth for the 7th time, the human vessel Hyperion, the electromagnetic pulse, and the projectile achieving orbital velocity with inexplicable efficiency. High Counselor Zara, her plasma-based form contained within an ornate energy field, called for order. We will maintain decorum. Her thoughts resonated through the chamber's psychic interface. Senior Observer Nexus, please continue your report. Nexus floated to the center of the chamber, his crystalline form still showing traces of the deep purple distress color he'd manifested during the observation. Honorable Council, the human electromagnetic mass accelerator represents more than just an advancement in propulsion technology. It demonstrates a fundamental difference in how humans approach technological development. Explain, demanded Representative Kroll of the Silicon Collective, their neural matrix pulsing with skepticism. The humans didn't develop this technology through traditional research progression, Nexus explained. They weren't trying to master electromagnetic field manipulation or advance their understanding of particle physics. They were simply trying to reduce the cost of launching satellites. The chamber erupted in a cacophony of reactions. The concept of developing technology for economic rather than scientific reasons seemed alien to many of the representatives. Science Elder Vix moved forward, projecting data streams into the central display. Our analysis of human development patterns reveals something unprecedented. Where we focus on theoretical advancement and pure research, humans prioritize practical applications and cost efficiency. The display shifted to show the history of human spaceflight. Observe, Vix continued. When faced with the challenge of reaching orbit, they didn't wait to develop gravity manipulation or energy field technology. They used chemical rockets, crude but effective. When those proved too expensive, they didn't seek theoretical breakthroughs. Instead, they found ways to make existing technology more efficient. And in doing so, Nexus added, they accidentally created a propulsion system that matches or exceeds our own capabilities in several key metrics. A ripple of unease passed through the chamber. Representative Mina of the Quantum Consciousness Collective pulsed forward, her energy form flickering with concern. Are we certain they don't understand the military implications of their technology? Oh, they understand, Nexus replied. Their naval forces are already adapting the system for weapons applications, but that wasn't the primary goal. Their focus was, and remains, economic efficiency. High Counselor Zara's energy field crackled with interest. Show us the human research team's original proposal. The holodisplay shifted to show Dr. Maya Patel's initial NASA presentation. The chamber fell silent as they watched the human scientist explain her idea, not in terms of advancing human knowledge or achieving technological supremacy, but in terms of dollars per kilogram to orbit. Remarkable, whispered Elder Vix. They achieved this breakthrough not because they were trying to advance their civilization's knowledge, but because they were trying to save money. This poses a significant challenge to our classification system, noted Representative Kroll. How do we evaluate a species that develops advanced technology, almost by accident? Nexus's form shifted to a contemplative blue. Perhaps that is the wrong question. Perhaps we should ask, what other breakthroughs might humans achieve if they continue to ignore the proper path of technological development? The display shifted again, showing other human technology projects. Solar panels developed for cost efficiency that accidentally created new insights into energy absorption. Communication systems designed for reliability that produced unexpected quantum effects. Transportation networks optimized for fuel economy that revealed new principles of aerodynamics. There's more, Vix announced, his crystalline form vibrating with excitement. Analysis of their global information network reveals thousands of similar projects in development. They're not following any established progression of technological advancement. They're simply solving problems as they encounter them, using whatever methods work best. High Counselor Zara's energy field pulsed with decision. This changes everything. Our entire system of evaluating species' technological readiness is based on them following established development paths. These humans don't even know these paths exist. And in their ignorance, Nexus added, they're finding solutions we never considered. Representative Mina pulsed with sudden understanding. Because they don't know what's supposed to be impossible, they attempt things we would never consider. And sometimes they succeed. The chamber hummed with a new kind of energy as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just developing technology differently. They were approaching the very concept of progress from an entirely new angle. Their limitations, their need to find economical solutions, had pushed them to innovations that more advanced civilizations had missed. We must revise our first contact protocols, declared High Counselor Zara. Traditional methods assume a species will develop along predictable lines. Humanity has demonstrated that assumption is no longer valid. As the Council debated the implications, Nexus shared a private communication with Elder Vix. Do you realize what this means? Every limitation humans face, every resource constraint or technological gap, becomes an opportunity for innovation. They don't just solve problems. They transform their obstacles into advantages. Vix's crystalline form shimmered with agreement. And now that they've proven their mass driver technology works, they'll keep refining it, making it more efficient, finding new applications, not because they're following a grand technological plan, but because they want to save money and solve practical problems. The council chamber continued to buzz with discussion, but the conclusion was already clear. Humanity's approach to technology had shattered more than just their understanding of propulsion systems. It had broken every assumption the Galactic Council had about how civilizations were supposed to develop. Paradigm shift. The Galactic Science Academy's main research hub, orbiting Centauri Prime, had never seen such activity. Researchers from across the galaxy crowded its halls, all focused on understanding what they now called the human approach. Elder Vix, who had become the leading expert on human technological development, stood before a diverse group of scientists, his crystalline form refracting light in patterns of excitement. "Consider this," he began, projecting a hologram of Earth's power generation systems. When faced with climate change, humans didn't wait to master fusion or zero-point energy. Instead, they improved existing solar panel technology, making it more cost-effective. In doing so, they accidentally discovered principles of energy absorption that our scientists overlooked for millennia. Dr. Lyra, a quantum consciousness specialist, pulsed with curiosity. Because they were focused on practical efficiency rather than theoretical advancement. Exactly, Vix confirmed. Our civilizations typically master fundamental forces before applying them. Humans simply solve problems, using whatever tools they have available. The results are unexpected. The hologram shifted to show the U.S. Hyperion's electromagnetic mass accelerator. This system shouldn't work as well as it does. By our understanding of technological progression, humans lack the theoretical framework to achieve such precise electromagnetic field manipulation. Yet they did it, not through advanced physics, but through iterative engineering and cost optimization. In another part of the facility, Nexus was meeting with the Council's First Contact Committee. The traditional protocols for introducing primitive species to galactic society lay scattered across holographic displays, marked with countless revisions and annotations. "We have to completely rethink our approach," Nexus explained. "These humans, they don't follow logical progression. They jump tracks, combine technologies in ways we'd never consider, and solve problems sideways." Committee Chair Zena, her energy form swirling with concern, projected her thoughts. "How do we guide a species that doesn't follow established paths?" "That's just it," Nexus replied. "I'm not sure we should guide them at all. Their unique approach to problem-solving might be their greatest strength." Meanwhile, aboard the U.S. Hyperion, Dr. Maya Patel was reviewing the latest test data with her team, unaware of the galactic upheaval her invention had caused. The electromagnetic mass accelerator had performed beyond expectations, and NASA had already approved funding for a full-scale orbital launch facility. "Look at these efficiency numbers," she said to Torres, pointing to a graph. "We're getting better energy transfer than the simulations predicted. Something about the field harmonics. Maybe we should try that weird idea you had about phase-shifting the magnetic fields," Torres suggested. "I know it's not technically sound according to current theory, but neither was the original design." In orbit, a cloaked observation drone recorded their conversation, transmitting it to the watching aliens. Elder Vix and his team analyzed every word, their amazement growing. "They're about to do it again," Vix announced to his colleagues. "They're going to try something that isn't technically sound according to current theory, simply because their previous success suggests it might work. But the phase harmonics of electromagnetic fields are well understood," protested a silicon-based physicist. "There's no theoretical basis for—" "That's exactly the point," interrupted Nexus, who had joined the observation. "They don't know it's impossible, so they're going to try anyway. And based on their track record." The implications sent ripples through the academic community. Humanity's ignorance of proper theoretical frameworks wasn't a limitation, it was an advantage. They weren't constrained by knowing what was supposed to be impossible. In the Academy's strategic planning chamber, a new initiative was taking shape. High Counselor Zora had authorized the formation of what they called the Human Perspective Division, a team dedicated to approaching problems from humanity's practical, cost-driven viewpoint. Instead of asking, "What new fundamental force can we discover?" explained the division's leader, "we ask, how can we solve this problem with existing technology?" It's uncomfortable for many of our researchers, but the results are undeniable. The division's first project was attempting to improve standard galactic shield technology using humanity's approach. Instead of seeking new energy manipulation techniques, they focused on making existing shields more energy efficient. Within weeks, they had discovered 3 potential improvements that centuries of traditional research had missed. Back on Earth, Maya and her team were preparing for another test. The modified electromagnetic fields performed exactly as they shouldn't, achieving even greater efficiency. In doing so, they had unknowingly demonstrated another principle that would send shockwaves through the galactic scientific community. It's all about approaching problems differently, Vix explained to a chamber full of stunned researchers. Humans don't ask, "What's the correct way to solve this?" They ask, "What's the most practical way to solve this?" And in doing so, they force us to question everything we thought we knew about technological development. As the galactic community struggled to adapt to this paradigm shift, humanity continued doing what it did best, finding practical solutions to immediate problems, unaware that each innovation was causing a fundamental restructuring of galactic scientific thought. Perhaps Nexus mused to High Counselor Zara, "This is why we've never encountered a species quite like humans before. Most civilizations that achieve our level of advancement did so by following established paths. We've never encountered a species that simply ignored those paths entirely." Zara's energy field pulsed with what might have been amusement, and in doing so, they're forcing us to question paths we followed for millennia. The real question is, what will they accidentally discover next? New Horizons. The day humanity officially joined the galactic community began, appropriately enough, with a cost-saving measure. Dr. Maya Patel stood on the launch platform of the newly completed International Space Elevator in Kenya, watching as her electromagnetic mass accelerator system prepared to send its first commercial payload into orbit. "Power systems nominal," reported Torres from the control room. "Capacitor banks charged at optimal efficiency." Who would have thought that trying to save money on launches would lead to first contact? Maya smiled, still processing the events of the past month. The arrival of the Galactic Council's diplomatic fleet had been spectacular. Massive ships appearing in orbit, their advanced technology finally revealed to humanity. Yet what had impressed the aliens most wasn't Earth's military capabilities or scientific achievements, but rather humanity's knack for finding unexpected solutions to everyday problems. High above, aboard the Galactic Council's flagship, Senior Observer Nexus and Elder Vix watched the preparations with keen interest. Their crystalline forms shimmered with anticipation as they monitored the human activity below. "They've already improved the system's efficiency by another 30%, Vix noted, his form displaying colors of amazement. Simply because someone suggested it might reduce operating costs. And in doing so, Nexus added, they've unknowingly advanced our understanding of electromagnetic field harmonics. Again, his form shifted to display patterns of amusement. The Science Academy is still trying to explain how their technically unsound modifications work so well. The space elevator's cargo pod, equipped with Maya's latest version of the electromagnetic mass accelerator, began its ascent. Unlike traditional space elevators that relied solely on mechanical climbing, this one used a combination of technologies that the aliens had previously thought incompatible, another practical solution that had sent ripples through the galactic scientific community. High Counselor Zara materialized beside them, her energy form pulsing with purpose. "The Council has finished reviewing the preliminary cultural exchange reports. Their impact on galactic society will be significant. More than you know," Nexus responded. "The Human Perspective Division has already revolutionized 3 different fields of study. Their approach of asking, how can we do this cheaper, instead of what's the theoretically correct solution, is spreading through the scientific community like a virus. Below, Maya watched as the cargo pod reached its launch position. This payload would demonstrate humanity's new role in the galaxy, not just as another spacefaring species, but as innovators who approached problems from angles no one else had considered. Launch sequence initiated. Torres announced. The electromagnetic fields hummed to life, their efficiency now enhanced by a combination of human practical engineering and alien theoretical understanding. In orbit, representatives from 100 alien species watched in fascination. The humans were using technology that, by galactic standards, should have been crude and inefficient. Yet somehow, they had made it work better than systems based on far more advanced principles. They're still improving it, Vix observed with wonder. Not because they're trying to advance the science, but because someone in accounting suggested it might reduce maintenance costs. The cargo pod launched smoothly into orbit, its trajectory perfect, its energy consumption minimal. Another success, another small step forward, not through grand theoretical breakthroughs, but through practical, incremental improvements driven by everyday concerns. The galaxy will never be the same, Zora declared, her energy field rippling with certainty. Humanity's influence is already spreading. Worlds that have followed the same technological paths for millennia are beginning to ask, what if there's a simpler way? On the surface, Maya's team celebrated another successful launch. They were already discussing potential improvements, their minds focused not on the grand implications of their work, but on practical matters like power efficiency and maintenance schedules. You know what the funny thing is, Maya said to Torres as they reviewed the launch data. All those advanced alien civilizations, with their incredible technology and theoretical understanding, and they never thought to try things our way because they knew it wouldn't work. Humanity's greatest strength, Nexus observed to his colleagues, may be that they don't know what they're not supposed to be able to do. Every limitation becomes an opportunity for innovation, every constraint a chance to find a new approach. As the cargo pod settled into its orbital trajectory, Zura made a decision that would shape the future of galactic civilization. We will not merely welcome humanity into the galactic community, she announced. We will learn from them. Their practical approach, their willingness to try impossible solutions, their focus on efficiency and cost-effectiveness. These are perspectives we have needed for millennia without realizing it. The sun rose over Earth's horizon, illuminating a planet that had forever changed the galaxy, not through overwhelming force or theoretical brilliance, but through the simple human trait of finding practical solutions to everyday problems. Humanity had joined the stars not by following the established path, but by blazing their own trail, guided by the most mundane of motivations, trying to save money and make things work better. And in doing so, they had taught the galaxy a lesson it would never forget. Sometimes the best way forward isn't the most advanced or theoretically sound approach. Sometimes it's just finding a simpler way to get the job done.